I never thought I'd end up here, honestly. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Lisa for about 7 years now. We met in college, fell hard, got married pretty quick. It seemed perfect at first, two people who genuinely thought they had everything figured out. She was smart, ambitious, and I thought she was the one. We were building a life together, working on our careers, making plans, and yeah, dreaming about a future that included maybe a big house, some kids, and a nice retirement. But somewhere along the way, I started noticing little things. Lisa always had an excuse for everything: missing her phone, late nights at the office, unexplained absences. She'd get defensive if I asked questions, and she'd spin some bullshit about how I was overthinking or being paranoid. I mean, I knew women can be bitchy sometimes, but it wasn't just that. There was a sharp edge to her responses, like she was hiding something. I tried to brush it off, telling myself she was stressed or maybe just tired. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Then there was the fucking strange stuff. Her phone always on silent, her deleting texts, her acting differently when I got home early from work once or twice. She'd suddenly be really busy when I tried to talk to her, and her mood swings got worse. I'd catch her in little lies here and there. Like when I asked where she'd been last Saturday, she said she was at some girl's night out. But her stories didn't match up with the little details I'd noticed later. Small inconsistencies, but they gnawed at me. One day, I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. I decided to surprise her, thought we could grab lunch or something. As I approached the apartment, I noticed her car wasn't in the driveway. That was odd. Usually she'd leave it there even if she was out. I thought maybe she was at the gym or meeting a friend. But then I heard noises from inside, sounds that didn't quite fit the usual quiet of our place. I hesitated. My gut told me to check through the window. I peeked inside, and what I saw made my stomach drop. Lisa was in the living room on her knees with some guy I didn't recognize. They were going at it pretty intensely, and I could see her fingers gripping his shirt, her face flushed with pleasure. My heart stopped. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. I stayed there, frozen, trying to process it. Was this really happening? Was she cheating on me? I didn't make a noise, didn't want to blow my cover, but I knew I had to see more, so I crept closer, inching along the wall, trying to get a clearer view. I saw enough to know that this wasn't just some drunken fling or casual thing. No, this looked serious. She was into this guy and he was into her. It made me feel sick, furious, broken all at once. I felt betrayed, not just by her actions but by the whole illusion of our marriage. How did I miss all the signs? How did I not see that she was capable of this? I backed away slowly, trying to gather my thoughts. My hands were trembling and my chest felt tight. I had no idea what to do next, but I knew I couldn't just pretend I hadn't seen anything. That moment changed everything. It was like a punch in the gut, and suddenly I was faced with the brutal truth. Lisa had been lying to me for months, maybe longer, that she was cheating. I felt a storm of emotions: confusion, rage, heartbreak. But more than anything, I felt the burning need to confront her, to find out what the hell was really going on, and to figure out how I was going to deal with this mess. And that's where I am now, sitting in front of my laptop, trying to write this out because I don't really have anyone I can talk to about it. I'm lost, pissed off, and honestly a little scared. I never thought I'd be one of those guys, one of the guys whose wife screws around behind his back. But here I am, staring at a future I never wanted to face, wondering if I can even trust her anymore. After I saw her with that guy, I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My mind kept replaying everything I saw: the way she was on her knees, the way her face lit up, the way her hands clung to his shirt like she was trying to hold onto something she didn't want to let go of. I kept thinking about all the times she told me she was working late or going out with friends, or how she'd lie about being tired after a long day. And now I knew it was all bullshit. I spent the night staring at my phone, agonizing over what to do. Part of me wanted to storm into that apartment and confront her right then, but I knew better. That would only make things worse. I needed a plan. I needed to gather evidence, figure out how deep this thing went, and decide what my next move was. But most of all, I needed to keep my cool. That was the hardest part, controlling the rage threatening to boil over. The next morning, I decided I couldn't just ignore it. I had to talk to her. So I texted her first, asking to meet up for coffee. She replied quickly, typical Lisa, always in control, always trying to keep things smooth. She said she was busy with some project at work but would try to squeeze in a quick break. I knew she was lying again, but I played it cool. I told her I just needed to see her, that it was important. When she finally came, over that afternoon, she was dressed up like she was heading out somewhere fancy. I looked at her, trying to keep my face neutral, but inside I was boiling. I didn't say much at first, just watched her, waiting. Then she sat down, smiled that fake smile she always wore, and asked what was wrong. I took a deep breath. "I saw you last night," I said bluntly. Her face froze for a moment, then she tried to brush it off. "What are you talking about? Saw me where?" She asked, her tone all innocent, even a little bitchy. That pissed me off. I told her I'd seen her with that guy, that I knew she was cheating. Her eyes flickered just for a second. Then she started lying, flipping the story on me. "You must be mistaken, Jake. Maybe you saw someone else, or maybe your mind is playing tricks." I wasn't buying it, her usual bullshit. I pressed her further, asking who that guy was, how long it had been going on, what the hell she thought she was doing. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that she loved me but was just exploring her options, as if that made it okay. That was the moment I realized she was a master manipulator. She lied so smoothly, like she'd done it 100 times before. She kept telling me she was sorry, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that she was just confused, that I was being unreasonable. I felt a mixture of rage and disbelief. How could she sit here and lie to my face after what I saw? I wanted to punch her, scream at her, tell her she was a bitch, but I held it in. Instead, I just told her I needed some time to think. I told her I was hurt and betrayed, and I didn't want to see her anymore until I figured things out. She looked pissed, but she also looked like she knew she was winning some game she was playing. That moment was the beginning of the end of whatever semblance of marriage we had left. I knew that from now on, things would never be the same. That night I stayed up replaying everything, trying to find clues I'd missed, analyzing her words and actions. Emotional roller coaster was brutal. I felt crushed, angry, and humiliated. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let her get away with this. I kept telling myself I should just walk away, forget her, but part of me still wanted answers. I needed to know why she did it, how long she'd been cheating, and whether there was any way to fix this. But deep down, I knew I was probably fooling myself. She had lied so much already. How could I trust her now? Anyway, I decided I'd get some evidence, something concrete, so I could confront her properly and maybe even figure out my next move. I installed some hidden cameras in the apartment, nothing big, just enough to catch her if she was sneaking around again. I didn't plan to do anything rash yet. I just wanted to see what she was up to when I wasn't around. That was the start of my plan for revenge, although I didn't quite realize how far I was willing to go at that point. All these feelings were swirling inside me, the hurt, the anger, the betrayal, and I couldn't help but think about the future. Was our marriage over? Could I ever forgive her? Or was I better off just cutting my losses and walking away? I still didn't have the answer, but I knew one thing for sure. My life was about to change forever, and I wasn't going to come out of this the same person I was before I saw her with that other guy. After setting up the cameras and giving myself a few days to breathe, I started noticing things I hadn't caught before. The footage was damning. I caught her sneaking out of the apartment late at night, meeting someone in a parking lot, definitely not a friend, judging by how quickly she was getting into his car. I saw her texting someone constantly, hiding her screen when I walked into the room. And most disturbingly, I caught her in a lie about going to a work dinner, which was just a cover for her meetings with this guy, probably for sex or whatever they called it. This was no longer a suspicion or a gut feeling. It was proof. I watched her lie to my face about her exploring options, and I felt like my stomach was turning inside. Out she lied so fluently, so effortlessly, I wondered how I'd ever been so blind. I was furious, but mostly I was hurt. Deep down, I knew I'd been betrayed in a way I couldn't undo. I didn't want to confront her again without a game plan. I needed to be cold, calculated. I decided I'd catch her in the act, show her I had evidence, and then we'd have a serious talk. But I also knew I couldn't just let her keep doing this. If she thought she could keep sneaking around, she'd never stop. So I upped my game, making sure I was always home early, pretending to be clueless, waiting for the right moment. One night I'd had enough. I left my phone in the bedroom, pretending to be asleep, while I hid behind the curtains with my laptop. I watched her sneak out. This time she was more confident, obviously knowing she was slipping away without me noticing. I saw her meet the guy at the same parking lot, this time more openly, like she was proud of what she was doing. My blood boiled, but I kept my composure. I knew this was the moment I needed to confront her. No more excuses, no more lies. When she got home that night, I was waiting in the dark. I turned on the lights and told her to sit down. Her face was a mixture of defiance and guilt. She knew she was caught. I laid out the evidence, showing her the video clips and screenshots of her texts. Her reaction was classic: denial, then anger, then a sneer. She threw words like trust issues, controlling, and you don't understand what I need, all while trying to brush it off like I was overreacting. She blamed me for everything, said I was neglectful, that I didn't listen, that she was just exploring her options because I was boring and dull in bed. That last part hit hard. I always thought we had a good sex life, but she made it sound like I was useless, like I wasn't satisfying her. That particular lie made my stomach turn even more. I looked at her, feeling like I was losing my mind. How could she be so callous, so manipulative? How did I get here, from a guy who trusted his wife to a guy who's been secretly recording her cheating? I told her she needed to leave immediately, that I couldn't live with someone who lied to my face and morphed into a different person behind my back. She started crying, throwing her usual tantrum, saying how she loved me, how she didn't mean to hurt me, how she was just confused. I didn't buy it. Nothing she said could undo what I'd seen. Those images and videos played in my head on repeat. I was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions, mostly anger and heartbreak. I felt like I had been punched in the gut repeatedly. But beneath all that, a cold part of me realized it was time to think about myself. The marriage was clearly over, and I had to decide whether I was going to try to forgive her or cut my losses. I told her to get out, and she left, screaming and crying, trying to manipulate me one last time. But I didn't care. That night I stayed up, staring at the empty space where she'd been sleeping. I felt numb. I kept thinking about everything: her lies, her betrayal, the fact that I had been so blind. I thought about what I wanted for myself moving forward. I knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. I had to accept that she was gone, that I was going to have to start over. I realized I was probably better off alone than with someone who could lie so easily and cheat so brazenly. It hit me that this was a turning point, whether I wanted it to be or not. I could either let this destroy me or use it as a wake-up call. I knew I had to rebuild trust in myself, rebuild my life, and maybe, just maybe, find a way to forgive myself for trusting her so much. Because if I learned anything, it's that sometimes the people you think are your everything are just waiting to stab you in the back. And when they do, you have to be strong enough to walk away. The days that followed were a blur. I threw myself into work, trying to drown out the constant replay of everything I'd seen and felt. I rarely slept, and when I did, I'd wake up in cold sweats, visions of her with that guy flashing through my mind. It was like I'd been hit by a truck, emotionally drained and angry all at once. Every time I thought about her, I'd feel this crushing mix of betrayal and sadness. I kept asking myself how I hadn't seen it coming, how I'd missed all the signs, and why I had trusted someone who clearly didn't give a shit about me. I knew I needed to get closure, but I also knew that talking to her again wouldn't help. She'd been so good at lying, so skilled at manipulating her way out of anything. Still, I couldn't stop myself from obsessing over what she'd say if I gave her the chance. Would she apologize? Would she blame me for everything? Or would she just dig her heels in and deny everything again? Part of me wanted her to feel guilty, to suffer even a little bit, but deep down, I knew that wouldn't fix anything. One afternoon, I decided enough was enough. I needed to confront her one last time, not because I thought I could get her to admit the truth, but because I needed to hear it from her. I texted her and told her I wanted to meet in person. Her reply was quick: She wanted to talk, too. I told her to meet me at a cafe, neutral ground. When she arrived, she looked different, more desperate maybe. She avoided eye contact at first, fidgeting with her purse. We sat down and I just stared at her. I didn't say much at first, just let her talk. She tried to spin it again, saying she'd only been with that guy for a few weeks, that she was confused, that I'd driven her away with my constant accusations. She said she loved me, but she needed this escape, to feel alive again. She looked at me with those false, innocent eyes, like she was trying to make me feel guilty for catching her. Then I finally snapped. I told her I'd seen everything, the videos, the texts, the late-night meetings, that I knew she'd been lying for months and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I told her she was a bitch for cheating, for lying, for treating our marriage like a game. And I told her she could go to hell if she thought she was going to guilt-trip me into forgiving her. Her response: she put on this fake act, acting like she was the victim, crying that she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was just trying to find herself, that she was stressed, that she was lost, and that I was just too controlling. It made me sick to see her so full of shit, trying to turn everything around on me. I felt my blood boil. I told her she was a lying bitch and that she could leave for good. When she finally left, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd finally confronted her face to face, laid everything out and told her to get out of my life. But inside, I was shattered. It hit me hard that the woman I'd trusted with my life had been sleeping with some guy, lying about everything and playing me like a fool. I kept asking myself if I should have fought harder, if I could have saved what we had, but deep down, I knew it was over. Over the next few weeks, I started to detox from the emotional chaos. I got rid of her things, changed my phone number, and even went to therapy. It helped to talk to someone who wasn't trying to manipulate me or tell me what I wanted to hear. I realized I'd been holding on to hope that maybe, somehow, she'd change, she'd come back, she'd be the person I fell in love with. But I knew that was just a fantasy. She had shown me her true colors, and no amount of wishing could rewrite that. Most days, I still feel the sting, like a wound that won't completely heal. There are moments when I catch myself wondering if I did the right thing, if I should reach out, if I should try to fix this mess. But then I remember what I saw, what I felt, and I realize that I deserve better. I deserve someone who respects me, who doesn't lie, who doesn't cheat. And honestly, I'm starting to believe I can find that again, even if it feels impossible right now. What I've learned is this: trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to repair. But I also learned that I don't have to stay stuck in the pain. I can choose to move forward, to rebuild my life without her toxicity dragging me down. It's going to take time, and I know. I'll have days when I feel weak, but I also know I'm stronger than I thought. And someday, maybe I'll be able to look back and see this as a painful chapter that taught me how to value myself more. The weeks turned into months, and slowly I started piecing myself back together. It wasn't easy. Some mornings, I'd wake up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck all over again, memories flooding back, the pain of betrayal fresh and raw. I'd think about Lisa, how she lied, cheated, and played me for a fool. But as time went on, those feelings of intense heartbreak softened into something more manageable. I learned to breathe again, to focus on myself and what I needed to heal. I threw myself into rebuilding my life. I took up working out more seriously, trying to get stronger physically and mentally. I started going out with friends more, reconnecting with people I'd neglected during the chaos of our marriage. It was hard at first. Everywhere I went, I'd catch myself thinking about her, about that betrayal. But I knew I couldn't let her define me. I had to find my footing again, build a life that didn't revolve around that pain. Every so often, I'd stumble across something that would trigger the old feelings: an old shirt she left behind, a song that reminded me of us, a random memory. It was like reopening the wound just when I thought it was starting to heal. But I also learned to accept those moments as part of the process. Pain wasn't something I could just erase, but I could learn to live with it, to let it shape me into a stronger person. One day, I decided to face the past head-on. I went through all the evidence I had collected, the videos, the texts, the photos. I wanted to understand everything, to get some closure. As I sat there looking at it all, I realized just how much I'd been blind, how much I'd trusted someone who didn't deserve it. But I also saw my own resilience. I'd survived her betrayal and I was still standing. That realization hit me hard, that I was stronger than I thought. In that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't let her actions ruin me forever. I knew I'd never fully forget what happened, but I could choose how I carried it. I decided to focus on myself, on my happiness, and on finding someone who valued me for who I was. I wasn't ready to jump into another relationship yet, but I was open to the idea. Someone who was honest, loyal, and who wouldn't betray my trust like she did. I learned that revenge isn't always about getting back at someone. Sometimes, it's just about reclaiming your power, standing tall even after everything's fallen apart. I don't want to be that guy who's bitter and broken, but I also don't want to forget what I went through. I want to use it as a lesson, a reminder to myself that I deserve respect and honesty. Looking back, I see this entire ordeal as a brutal but necessary wake-up call. It forced me to look at my own boundaries and values. It made me realize that I shouldn't settle for someone who lies, cheats, and manipulates. I've started to rebuild my confidence, my sense of worth. I still have days when I feel like I'm back at square one, but those days are fewer and farther between. And honestly, I think that's the biggest lesson of all. No matter how shattered you feel, you can always pick up the pieces and start over. Sometimes betrayal is a gift in disguise. It forces you to see who really matters, to realize what you truly deserve, and to finally walk away from what's toxic. I may be scarred, but I'm also stronger now. And I know that someday I'll find happiness again, better, healthier, and more genuine than I ever thought possible. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize how much I've changed. I used to be naive, trusting her blindly, thinking marriage meant forever. But betrayal opens your eyes fast. It teaches you that not everyone is who they pretend to be, and that sometimes, love isn't enough to stop someone from betraying you in the worst way. It's a hard lesson, but an essential one. I won't lie. There are still moments when I feel the sting of everything she did. When I hear a song or smell something that reminds me of her, I get a pang of pain. But those moments are fewer, and they don't hold the power they once did. I've learned to accept that what's done is done. I can't change her actions or fix what's broken. The only thing I can do now is focus on myself. What I've come to understand is that revenge isn't about hurting her anymore. It's about reclaiming my peace, my dignity, and my future. I don't wish her harm. Honestly, I hope she finds whatever it is she's looking for. But I refuse to let her betrayal define my life. I'm building new boundaries, more honest and firm this time. I'm learning to trust again, slowly, carefully, with someone who deserves it. Most importantly, I've realized that I'm stronger than I thought. I survived her lies, her betrayal, her cheating. I endured it, I learned from it, and now I'm moving forward. That's the real revenge, living my life in a way that shows her she couldn't break me, that I'm better off without her toxic presence in my world. I've cut the cord, closed that chapter, and opened a new one filled with hope, self-respect, and cautious optimism. So here's my advice to anyone going through something similar. Trust your instincts, gather your evidence if you need to, and don't be afraid to confront the truth. It's painful, yes, but hiding from it only prolongs the suffering. The moment you face it head on, you start to regain control of your life. And remember, no matter how bad it gets, you are capable of healing. You are worth more than the lies someone told you. In the end, I know I'll be okay. Better than okay, actually. I'll keep rebuilding, keep learning, and keep pushing forward. Because life is too short to waste on someone who doesn't value you. I've learned that the hard way. Now I finally see my worth, and I refuse to settle for anything less. Whatever comes next, I'll face it with a stronger heart and a clearer mind. And that's enough to keep going.